Part 1. The Lecture Hall Incident. The lecture hall was packed with students from 17 different species. Taman sat in the back row, trying not to draw attention to himself. Being one of only 3 humans at the Galactic University made him feel like everyone was always watching him. His friend Hyejin sat beside him, both of them wearing the standard university uniform. Professor Velcris clicked her mandibles together in excitement. The insectoid professor had been teaching xenohistory for 40 years, and today was clearly special for her. Her compound eyes gleamed as she dimmed the lights in the hall. "Students, today we will witness something extraordinary," Professor Velcris announced. Her translator made her chittering sound almost musical. "I have obtained classified footage from the Great Archive. What you are about to see has been sealed for 200 years. The holographic display flickered to life. Grainy footage appeared, showing what looked like a battlefield on some distant planet. Explosions lit up a dark sky. The alien students leaned forward in their seats. "These are the legendary warriors," Professor Velcris said with reverence. "The beings who fought in the Void Wars. Watch closely." The footage showed armored figures moving through the chaos. They moved with purpose and speed that made several students gasp. One warrior lifted a massive piece of debris that must have weighed several tons. Another took a direct hit from an energy weapon and kept fighting. "Impossible," whispered a student from the crystalline species. "No organic being can survive that," Professor Velcris nodded. "That is what makes them legendary. These warriors exhibited capabilities beyond anything we understand. They could survive in vacuum for short periods. They could endure injuries that would kill any known species. Their strength and endurance were supernatural." Taman squinted at the screen. Something looked familiar. He leaned closer to Hyejin and whispered, "Is that footage from Proxima Centauri?" Hyejin looked at the tactical display in the corner of the footage. "Yeah, looks like it. That's definitely human military gear." The professor continued her lecture. "For decades, scholars have debated the origin of these warriors. Some believe they were an ancient species that went extinct. Others think they were created through advanced genetic engineering. Today, I will present my theory that they were demigods from a civilization we have yet to discover." Taman raised his hand slowly. Professor Velcris looked surprised. "The human rarely spoke in class." "Yes, Taman?" "Professor, I think those are just humans." The entire lecture hall went silent. 200 students turned to stare at him. Professor Velcris's antennae twitched in confusion. "I beg your pardon?" Taman stood up, feeling his face getting hot. "That armor design is from the Earth Marine Corps. See that insignia at 215? That's the UNSC logo, and that weapon is an M77 plasma rifle. We still use those." Professor Velcris made a sound like wind through hollow reeds. It was her species equivalent of a laugh. "Young Taman, I appreciate your enthusiasm. But these warriors existed 400 years ago. Humans had barely achieved faster-than-light travel at that time." "Right, and that's when the Proxima campaign happened," Taman said. He pulled out his personal data pad. "My uncle was there. He's got photos and everything." Now the professor's mandibles stopped moving entirely. "Your uncle?" Hyejin stood up beside Taman. "My dad, too. My whole family is military. That footage is from the Proxima Centauri conflict in 2447. It's in all our history books." A reptilian student named Crix spoke up. "But the legendary warriors performed impossible feats. They lifted objects weighing tons. They survived wounds that would kill anyone." "Yeah, that's pretty normal for humans," Taman said with a shrug. "We're from Earth. It's a heavy gravity world, so we're naturally strong. And our medical training teaches us how to keep fighting even when injured." Professor Velcris slowly descended from her platform. She approached Taman's row, her compound eyes fixed on his datapad. "Show me these photos." Taman scrolled through his family pictures. He stopped at a reunion photo from last year. "There, that's Uncle Bob. He fought at Proxima. See that scar on his face? He got that from shrapnel during the battle you just showed us." The professor took the data pad with trembling appendages. She zoomed in on the photo. A middle-aged human man stood there, smiling at the camera, holding a bottle of beer. He wore a fishing vest and a hat that said, "Galaxy's Best Uncle." "This cannot be," Professor Velcris whispered. "The legendary warrior of the burning plains is your uncle, who drinks beer and goes fishing." "Well, yeah. He's retired now. He runs a hardware store in New Seattle. Another student, an avian named Jiwon, flapped her wings in distress. But the warrior of the burning plains single-handedly held off an entire battalion for 6 hours, while his unit evacuated civilians. Taman nodded. Yeah, Uncle Bob got a medal for that. He keeps it in a drawer somewhere. Says the real reward was knowing everyone made it out alive. Professor Velcris sat down heavily in a student's chair. She seemed to be in shock. 400 years of research. 16 published papers. My entire career has been devoted to understanding these legendary beings. I mean, they're not really legendary, Taman said gently. They're just soldiers who did their jobs. A tentacled student named Vorp spoke up. But the footage shows them surviving in hard vacuum for 3 minutes during a hull breach. Heejin answered this time. Basic training teaches us to hold our breath and protect our eyes and ears. 3 minutes is about standard for most humans. Some can go longer. The lecture hall erupted into chaos. Students were shouting questions. Some were arguing with each other. Others were frantically searching their own datapads for information. Professor Velcris held up her clawed hands for silence. If what you say is true, Taman, then the greatest mystery in xenohistory is simply a misunderstanding? I guess so, Taman said. I'm sorry, Professor. I didn't mean to ruin your research. The professor's antennae quivered. She made that win-through-read sound again, longer this time. She was definitely laughing now. Ruin it? My dear boy, you may have just made the greatest discovery in xenoanthropology. If humans are the legendary warriors, then everything we thought we knew about the physical limits of organic beings is wrong. She stood up and addressed the class. New assignment. I want all of you to research human capabilities. Compare them to the legends we've studied. We will reconvene tomorrow. As students began filing out, still arguing and discussing, Professor Velcris turned to Taman. Your uncle, the one who runs a hardware store, would he be willing to speak with me? Taman thought about Uncle Bob, who liked to spend weekends watching sports and complaining about his back pain. Maybe. I can call him if you want. Please do. I have many questions. Hyjin grinned at Taman as they left the lecture hall. Dude, you just broke Xeno history. Taman groaned. I just wanted to pass the class. His datapad buzzed. It was a message from his roommate Minho. You're trending on the galactic net. What did you do? Taman showed the message to Hyjin. She laughed. Oh man, Uncle Bob is going to love this. Somehow Taman doubted that. His uncle hated attention almost as much as Taman did. But there was no taking it back now. The professor wanted to talk to a legendary warrior. Taman just hoped Uncle Bob was sober when he called. Then we need to control the narrative. Show them humans as we really are. Not gods, not threats. Just people. Far Part 4, the family reunion. The park was perfect for a family reunion. Green grass, tall trees, picnic tables scattered around a central pavilion. Children ran and screamed in the play area. Music played from portable speakers. The smell of grilling meat filled the air. It looked completely normal. Taman stood at the entrance with Professor Velcris and her research team. There were 20 aliens in total, various species, all carrying recording equipment. They looked terrified. These are the legendary warriors, Professor Velcris whispered. Having a picnic. I tried to tell you, Taman said. We're just normal people. Uncle Bob spotted them and waved enthusiastically. He wore cargo shorts and a shirt that said Grill Sergeant. He was flipping burgers on a massive grill. Taman, you made it. Bring your friends over. The group approached slowly. Alien students who'd insisted on coming stood at the back, cameras ready. The galactic media had offered huge amounts of money for footage of this event. Everyone, this is Professor Velcris and her research team from the university, Taman announced. They're here to learn about humans. An older woman approached. She was small, maybe 50 years old, with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair pulled into a ponytail. She wore an apron over jeans and a t-shirt. I'm Yunji, Bob's sister. Welcome to our reunion. She smiled warmly. I heard you've been studying our old military footage. That must be so boring. Professor Velcris's translator struggled with her shocked response. Boring? You are the blade dancer of the void. You single-handedly cleared an enemy position using only close combat weapons. Yunji laughed. Oh, that. Yeah, that was a rough day. I was young and stupid. Could have gotten killed doing something reckless like that. She gestured to a group of children playing nearby. Those are my kids. Much scarier than any combat situation. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, ran up. Mom, can I have a soda? Sure, sweetheart. Say hello to our guests first. The girl looked at the aliens with curiosity. Hi, I'm Yuna. Are you here to study us? Professor Velcris bent down to the child's level. Yes, we are learning about humans. Cool. Want to see me do a cartwheel? Without waiting for an answer, Yuna launched herself into a series of flips and cartwheels, moving with speed and coordination that made several aliens step back in alarm. Yunji just smiled. She does gymnastics. Very energetic. That child moved with combat-level agility, one researcher whispered. She's 7, Yunji said. Human children are naturally athletic. It's how they develop motor control. Uncle Bob called out, "Food's ready. Everyone grab a plate." The pavilion had tables loaded with food. Burgers, hot dogs, salads, grilled vegetables, desserts, and drinks covered every surface. At least 50 humans were gathered, ranging from small children to elderly grandparents. An old man sat in a lawn chair, watching the crowd. He had scars on his face and arms, and his eyes held the distant look of someone who'd seen too much. Taman recognized him from photos. That's Grandfather Deho, Taman said to Professor Velcris. He fought in the First Contact Wars. The professor approached respectfully. Sir, may I speak with you? Deho looked up and smiled. Call me Deho. Sir makes me feel old. Well, older. He gestured to a nearby chair. You're the professor studying our old battles? Yes, your military record is extraordinary. You participated in 37 major engagements over 15 years. Deho shrugged. I was young and the galaxy needed help. Seemed like the right thing to do. He took a sip of lemonade. These days I mostly help my daughter run a restaurant. Much more peaceful. Do you have regrets about your military service? Some. Lost friends. Saw things I wish I hadn't. But we protected people who couldn't protect themselves. That matters. He looked at the professor with sharp eyes. Is that what you're trying to understand? Why we fought? Partially. We're also trying to understand how you did things that should have been impossible. Deho laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Nothing impossible about it. Just training and determination. Earth teaches you that early. Nature doesn't care about impossible. You either survive or you don't. A volleyball game started nearby. Taman's cousin Junho was setting up a net with help from several other young adults. They called out for players. Uncle Bob, come play. Bob handed the grill tongs to someone else and jogged over. Teams of 6. We need 12 people. Professor Velcris watched as humans of various ages split into teams. The game started. Within seconds, it became clear this was not a casual game. Players jumped impossibly high to spike the ball. They dove onto the ground without hesitation, rolling and coming back up instantly. The ball moved so fast it was hard to follow. When someone hit the ground hard, they just laughed and got back up. This is their recreation, a researcher said in awe. They do this for fun. Yejin came over eating a burger. Yeah, my family gets super competitive about volleyball. Last reunion, my aunt broke her wrist. She finished the game before going to the hospital. She continued playing with a broken wrist. She said it wasn't broken until the game was over. Then it hurt, so she went to get it fixed. Yejin shrugged. Humans are stubborn. Yunji was cutting vegetables at a prep table. Her knife moved so fast it was nearly invisible. Precise cuts, perfect consistency, moving through hard vegetables like they were soft butter. Professor Velcris approached carefully. Your knife skills are extraordinary. Oh, thanks. I prep vegetables for my kids' school lunches. You get fast with practice. Yunji smiled. Want to see something cool? I can throw these pretty accurately. She tossed a cherry tomato into the air and threw a knife. The blade pinned the tomato to a wooden board 15 feet away. Party trick, Yunji explained. The kids love it. You could have killed someone in combat with that skill. Yunji's smile faded. Yes, I could have. I did during the war. But I prefer making salad now. She pulled the knife free and went back to chopping. Violence should only be used when necessary to protect others. That's what we teach our children. 2 young boys ran past, wrestling playfully. They hit the ground hard, rolled, and kept fighting. One got the other in a headlock. They were both laughing. Should we stop them? An alien researcher asked nervously. They're fine, Yunji said. Just playing. Human children roughhouse. It teaches them physical limits and social boundaries. The boys broke apart and ran off to join other kids. None of them looked injured. Uncle Bob scored a point in volleyball and raised his arms in triumph. Then he immediately helped the opposing player up who'd fallen trying to block. They high-fived and reset for the next play. We compete hard but play fair, Bob called out, noticing the aliens watching. It's more fun that way. As the afternoon continued, the research team documented everything. Grandfather Deho told war stories that matched historical records exactly, but he framed them as work anecdotes. Just another day at the office, he'd say after describing something heroic. Yuna demonstrated her soccer skills, kicking with enough force to dent a metal trash can. Oops, Mom, I broke it again. Unji just sighed. That's the third one this year. A group of human teenagers started a friendly fight competition, sparring with pulled punches. Each hit would have seriously injured most species, but the teens barely flinched. They critiqued each other's form between rounds. As evening approached, Bob lit a campfire. Everyone gathered around, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. Children fell asleep in parents' laps. The elderly shared memories. Teenagers showed off videos on their datapads. Professor Velcris sat next to Taman. Her recording equipment finally turned off. I spent 40 years studying legends, she said quietly. I built my entire career on the mystery of the legendary warriors. And they're just families having picnics. Are you disappointed? Taman asked. No, I'm amazed. She watched Bob help his niece roast a marshmallow. You're more incredible as real people than you ever were as legends. You survived a world that tried to kill you. You became strong not for conquest but for survival. And now you use that strength to protect others and enjoy life. Junho sat down next to them. Hey, Professor. Did you get what you needed for your research? More than I expected. She looked at him. Can I ask you something? Knowing that other species fear your capabilities, does that bother you? Junho thought for a moment. A little. We don't want to be feared. We want to be friends, colleagues, neighbors. But I understand why it's scary. We're different, he smiled. That's why events like this matter. You can't fear someone once you've eaten burgers with them and lost to them at volleyball. Uncle Bob stood up and raised his drink. A toast. To family, to friends, and to new understanding. May we always remember that strength means nothing without kindness. Everyone raised their drinks and cheered. Aliens and humans together. As the fire burned low, Professor Velcris made one final note in her research log. The legendary warriors are not myths. They are not gods. They are humans. And that makes them more remarkable than any legend could ever be. The next day, her footage would spread across the galaxy. Some would be reassured. Some would be more afraid. But everyone would see the truth. Legendary warriors grill burgers, play volleyball, love their families, and choose peace when possible. Part 3. The Archives Don't Match Reality Director. Hearth's office was designed to be intimidating. The massive alien administrator sat behind a desk made of polished stone from his homeworld. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed the data on his screens. Professor Velcris stood before him, antennae drooping with exhaustion. She hadn't slept in 2 days. You're certain of this? Director Hearth asked in his deep rumbling voice. Absolutely certain. Professor Velcris gestured to the holographic displays surrounding them. I've spent 48 hours cross-referencing every legend in our database with human military records. The match rate is 97%. Taman sat in the corner with Yejin, trying to stay invisible. They'd been summoned as witnesses. His friend Minho stood near the door, having somehow convinced security he was an essential consultant. Director Hearth pulled up a file. The Siege of Burning Skies. 3 warriors held a position for 9 days against an army. No food, limited water, constant bombardment. We've studied this event for 200 years as proof that some beings transcend normal physical limitations. Professor Velcris brought up a corresponding human military record. Human designation, the defense of Firebase Echo. 3 soldiers, standard Earth Marines. Their supplies were delayed due to a logistics error. They rationed water and went without food. According to the report, they complained mostly about being bored. Bored? Director Hearth's voice rose an octave. One of them taught the others how to play card games using pieces of debris. Another wrote letters to his girlfriend. The third one apparently napped whenever possible to conserve energy. Taman raised his hand slightly. Sir, if I may. Humans can go about 3 weeks without food if we have water. 9 days is uncomfortable but not dangerous. All 6 of Director Hearth's eyes focused on Taman. And this is normal? Yes, sir. It's in our biology. Fat storage and metabolic adjustment. We evolved to survive periods of scarcity. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a human figure walking through a field of hard radiation that should have been instantly lethal. The figure moved calmly, completing repairs on some kind of machinery, then walked back out. The immortal who walked through stars, Director Harth said. One of our most famous legends. This being supposedly had divine protection from radiation. Professor Velcris pulled up another human record. Engineer named Kangmin Park. He completed 3 emergency repairs on an external reactor during a radiation leak. According to his own report, he knew the exposure would make him sick but wouldn't kill him immediately. He wore 3 layers of radiation shielding in his suit, spent 2 weeks in medical afterward but made a full recovery. How is this possible? Director Harth demanded. Hedgen spoke up. Earth's ozone layer took millions of years to develop. Early humans evolved under higher radiation levels. We're more resistant than most species. Plus, we have really good cellular repair mechanisms. The office door chimed. A human woman entered wearing an academic uniform. She was in her 50s with gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. Dr. Somin Han, she introduced herself, human xenohistorian. The university asked me to consult on this matter. Director Harth gestured to a chair. Please help us understand. Are humans aware they are so exceptional? Dr. Somin sat down and laughed softly. Exceptional? No, we never thought of it that way. We're just humans. We didn't realize other species couldn't do the same things. She activated her own data pad, projecting a comparison chart. On one side was the average physical capabilities of the galaxy's main species. On the other side was average human capabilities. We're stronger due to Earth's gravity. We have better endurance because of our evolutionary history. We heal faster because of our immune systems. We can adapt to more environments because Earth has extreme variations. To us, this is all normal. Professor Velcris added another file to the display. The warrior of 1,000 battles. Fought in conflicts across 70 systems over 30 years. Never defeated. We built entire temples to honor this legend. Dr. Somin scrolled through human records. That would be Colonel Junho Kang. 30-year career, multiple deployments. He's retired now, lives on Mars. According to social media, he spends most of his time gardening and complaining about his knees. His knees? Director Harth sounded bewildered. Arthritis, common human condition in old age. Our joints wear out from use. Dr. Somin smiled. Colonel Kang is 68 years old and still capable of most physical activities. For humans, that's normal aging. Minho had been frantically taking notes. So every legend you've studied is just a human doing normal human things. It appears so, Professor Velcris said quietly. The blade dancer of the void is a dental hygienist. The immortal is an engineer who gardens. The warrior of 1,000 battles complains about arthritis. The office door chimed again. Security announced a visitor. A young man in Earth military uniform entered and saluted. Junho reporting as requested, sir. Taemin blinked. Wait, Junho? Cousin Junho? His cousin grinned. Hey, Taemin. Heard you broke xenohistory. Nice job. Director Harth stood up, his massive frame towering over everyone. You are military? Yes, sir. Active duty. I'm stationed at the Joint Operations Base on Kepler Station. Junho noticed all the stares. Is something wrong? Could you demonstrate your physical capabilities? Professor Velcris asked. For research purposes? Junho shrugged. Sure, I guess. What do you need? Dr. Somin gestured to a stack of equipment cases in the corner. Those cases, they're designed to be carried by 3 average aliens using anti-gravity assists. Could you move them? Junho walked over and looked at the cases. Each one had warning labels about weight limits. He picked up 2 of them, one in each hand, and carried them across the room. Where do you want them? Every alien in the room made sounds of distress. Director Harth's translator struggled to process his reaction. That should not be possible, he finally said. Sir, these aren't that heavy. Maybe 40 kilos each? Junho set them down gently. On Earth, I can carry twice this much. Professor Velcris was making rapid notes. Earth's gravity is 1 g. Kepler Station is maintained at 0.8 g for the comfort of multiple species. So you're actually weaker here than at home? Yeah, it takes a few days to adjust when I visit Earth. Everything feels heavier. Director Harth sat back down heavily. What else can you do that we might consider impossible? Junho thought for a moment. Well, I go for runs in the 1.8 g training section of the station. That's pretty normal for conditioning. I can hold my breath for about 4 minutes. I've done EVA repairs in extreme temperatures. Once I stayed awake for 3 days straight during an emergency situation. He paused. Is this for some kind of study? They thought we were gods, Taemin explained. Oh, Junho laughed. No, we're just from Earth. Everything there is either poisonous, predatory, or trying to crush you. You adapt. Dr. Sumin pulled up more records. Director Harth, I think you need to understand something. Humans have been restraining themselves in joint operations. We thought our natural capabilities would frighten other species, so we've been holding back. The director's translator emitted a sound like grinding rocks. Holding back? Yes, we use only a fraction of our strength in mixed species environments. We slow our pace to match others. We avoid displaying endurance that might seem threatening. We've been trying to fit in. Professor Velcris looked at all her research, decades of work. We've been worshipping them while they were trying not to scare us. Junho shifted uncomfortably. I mean, we didn't want to be rude. Making other species feel weak seems kind of mean. Heejin nodded. My dad always said the same thing. He was infantry, worked with lots of alien units. He said they went slow on purpose so everyone could keep up. Director Harth stood and walked to the window overlooking the campus. Outside, students from dozens of species walked between buildings. A few humans moved among them, careful and controlled. What else don't we know? He asked quietly. Dr. Somian opened another file. Human children learn self-defense starting around age 6. Basic combat training is mandatory in many education systems. Civilians are taught emergency survival skills. Our entertainment includes simulated combat for recreation. Your children train for combat? Professor Velcris sounded horrified. Not serious combat, just basic self-defense. How to escape holds, how to assess danger, basic first aid. It's for safety. Minho spoke up from his corner. I watched human children play yesterday. They were running, jumping, wrestling. They hit each other and laughed about it. That level of physical contact would injure most species. Yeah, human kids are rough, Junho agreed. But we're durable. Broken bones heal. Bruises fade. We're designed to take damage and recover. Director Harth turned back to face them. I need to convene an emergency council meeting. If humans are this capable and they've been restraining themselves, we need to reassess everything. Our treaties, our military strategies, our entire understanding of human integration into galactic society. Professor Velcris added quietly, some species will be afraid. They'll see humans as a threat. We're not a threat, Taman said firmly. We just want to live peacefully like everyone else. I believe you, Director Harth said. But belief and fear are not logical. When people learn the truth, there will be panic. Dr. Somin stood up. Part 2, Uncle Bob's video call. The lecture hall was even more crowded than yesterday. Word had spread about Taman's claim, and now students from other departments were trying to squeeze in. Professor Velcris had to call security to manage the crowd. Eventually, she agreed to broadcast the call to 3 overflow rooms. Taman sat at the front trying to ignore the hundreds of eyes watching him. Heejin gave him an encouraging pat on the shoulder. His roommate Minho had somehow gotten a front row seat and was recording everything on his datapad. Are you certain your uncle agreed to this? Professor Velcris asked. Her antennae kept twitching with nervous energy. Yeah, I talked to him last night. He thinks it's funny. Taman set up his portable holo projector on the desk. Fair warning, though. Uncle Bob is kind of, casual. I am prepared for anything, Professor Velcris said with confidence. Taman initiated the call. The projector hummed and created a life-sized hologram of his uncle's living room. Uncle Bob appeared, sitting in a worn recliner. He wore sweatpants and an old t-shirt with a faded logo. In one hand, he held a can of beer. In the other, he held a sandwich. Hey, kiddo, Uncle Bob said cheerfully. Is this the professor you told me about? Every alien in the room stared in complete silence. This was the legendary warrior of the burning plains. This man in sweatpants eating a sandwich. Professor Velcris approached the hologram slowly as if it might disappear. You are Robert Chen? Service number UC 2478834. Yeah, but everyone calls me Bob. Service number sounds way too formal. He took a bite of his sandwich. Sorry, didn't have lunch yet. You folks don't mind, right? An avian student named Jiwan raised her wing. Sir, you are the warrior who held the defensive line at Proxima Centauri for 6 hours against impossible odds? Bob swallowed his bite and shrugged. I mean, yeah, that was me. But it wasn't impossible. We had good defensive positions and plenty of ammunition. Plus, the enemy wasn't expecting us to dig in that hard. Professor Velcris pulled up the ancient footage on the main screen. Can you verify this recording? Bob leaned forward, squinting at the screen. He took a drink of his beer. Oh, wow, that's old footage. Yeah, that's Proxima. Let me see. Okay, at marker 234, That's me with the plasma rifle. See the guy who does that roll to avoid the explosion at 3:15? That's Daiho, my buddy from basic training. He owns a restaurant now. Makes great dumplings. The professor zoomed in on a particular sequence where a warrior lifted a massive piece of debris. And this? We calculated that object weighs approximately 1,200 kilograms. Sounds about right. That was part of a dropship hull. Had to move it to get to wounded soldiers trapped underneath. Bob pointed at the screen. That's actually my sister Yunji helping me lift it. See right there at the edge of the frame? Your sister? Professor Velcris's mandibles clicked rapidly. The blade dancer of the void? The warrior who single-handedly cleared an entire enemy position using only close combat. Oh, Yunji's gonna love that title. Yeah, she was always good with knives. She's a dental hygienist now. Got 2 kids. A reptilian student named Crick stood up. How is it possible that beings of such legendary skill now live ordinary lives? Bob looked confused. Well, the war ended. What else were we supposed to do? Keep fighting? Now most of us just wanted to go home. I worked construction for a while, then opened my hardware store. Yunji went to school for dental work. Everyone just kind of moved on. Minho raised his hand. Sir, in the footage, you took a direct hit from a plasma weapon. You should have died. Oh, that. Bob pulled his shirt collar aside, showing a nasty scar across his shoulder. Yeah, that hurt like hell. Knocked me down for a good 30 seconds. Lost 3 teeth when I hit the ground. But my armor took most of the hit, and adrenaline is a hell of a thing. You just kind of keep going, you know? Professor Velcris was making rapid notes on her data pad. You said adrenaline. Can you explain this? It's a hormone humans produce when we're stressed or in danger. Makes you stronger and faster for a short time. Blocks out pain. Pretty much every human has it. Every human? The professor's voice was faint. Yeah, it's basic biology. Comes from living on Earth. Everything there is dangerous, so we evolved to have emergency turbo mode. Bob finished his sandwich and crumpled the wrapper. Hey, you want to see something cool? I've got my old unit photos around here somewhere. He got up and walked off screen. The entire lecture hall watched in stunned silence as they heard him rummaging through drawers. He came back with a physical photo album, the kind with paper pages. Okay, so this is from our deployment. He opened the album and held up photos to the camera. That's our whole platoon. 43 people. Most of them are still alive, which is pretty good. Here's me and Daiho before the big battle. Here's Yunji looking annoyed because I made a joke about her haircut. Each photo showed ordinary people smiling, making silly faces, looking tired or bored. They looked nothing like legendary warriors. Professor Velcris pointed at one photo. That woman there. She appeared in footage from the Siege of Burning Skies. She ran through enemy fire for 200 meters without stopping. Oh, that's Sergeant Min. She runs marathons for fun. 200 meters is nothing for her. She teaches elementary school now. A tentacled student named Vorp spoke up nervously. Sir, do all humans possess these abilities? Bob scratched his head. I mean, I guess. We all went through the same training. Earth gravity is 1G, so when you go to lighter worlds, you're naturally stronger. And our endurance is pretty good because Earth has a lot of persistence predators. Our ancestors had to chase prey for hours. Yejin spoke up. My dad served in the same era. He always said the other species thought humans were crazy because we didn't know when to quit. Bob laughed. Yeah, that's accurate. I remember this one alien commander we worked with. He kept trying to pull us back from missions because he thought we were taking too many risks. We were just doing standard operations. Professor Velcris projected another piece of footage. Can you explain how warriors survived 3 minutes in hard vacuum? Basic training, day 15. They teach you how to protect your eyes, ears, and mouth. Then you practice holding your breath. Most humans can do 2 to 3 minutes easy. Some can go 5 or 6 minutes. It's uncomfortable, but not deadly if you know what you're doing. The lecture hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Jiwon flapped her wings in agitation. This is taught to all human soldiers? Yeah, it's standard. You never know when you might have a hull breach. Bob took another sip of his beer. Look, I don't mean to brag or anything, but this stuff isn't special for humans. It's just survival skills from growing up on a death world. Professor Velcris's leg seemed to give out. She sat down heavily in a chair. A death world, of course. That explains everything. Bob looked at Taemin. Hey kiddo, your professor okay? She looks a little wobbly. She just realized her entire life's work was studying humans without knowing it, Taemin said. Oh, well that's awkward. Bob grinned. Hey, speaking of which, my family reunion is coming up in 3 weeks. Why don't you all come? Unji will be there, Daiho too, bunch of other folks from the old days. You can ask us questions in person. Professor Velcris looked up sharply. You would allow us to meet multiple legendary warriors? Sure, we're just grilling burgers and playing volleyball. It's casual. Bring whoever wants to come. Bob glanced at something off screen. Oh, sorry, I gotta go. Promised my neighbor I'd help fix his fence. Nice talking to you folks. The call ended. The hologram vanished. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then the room exploded with noise. Everyone was talking at once. Students were arguing, laughing, shouting questions. Minyo was frantically typing on his datapad. Hyejin was grinning. Professor Velcris stood slowly. She addressed the crowd in a shaky voice. Class dismissed. I need to contact the university administration immediately, and possibly every xenohistorian in the galaxy. As students filed out, Taemin heard fragments of conversation. Legendary warriors grill burgers? They just walk among us like normal people? I need to rethink my entire dissertation. Minho grabbed Taemin's arm. Dude, you're going viral across 17 systems. There are betting pools on whether your family reunion will break galactic news records. Taemin put his head in his hands. I just wanted to pass xenohistory. Somewhere on Earth, Uncle Bob went back to fixing his neighbor's fence, completely unaware that he'd just triggered a crisis in xenoanthropology. Part 5. The Death World Revelation. The galactic news networks had been running the footage non-stop for 3 days. Images of Uncle Bob grilling burgers were interspersed with ancient battle footage. Children playing volleyball next to combat analysis. The family reunion had become the most watched event in galactic history. Taemin sat in Ambassador Krell's office, watching himself appear on screen after screen. The ambassador, a tall being with silver skin and too many joints in his limbs, was frantically managing communication channels. 17 systems are demanding emergency council meetings, Krell said, his translator making his stress obvious. 8 species have filed formal requests for information about human capabilities. 3 have closed their borders to human travel. 3? Hyejin leaned forward. Which ones? The Kresh Collective, the Valan Empire, and the Sisterhood of Eternal Light. They claim humans represent an existential threat. Krell pulled up another screen. However, 12 systems have formally requested military training partnerships with Earth. Professor Velcris entered the office, followed by Dr. Soman. The professor looked exhausted but energized. She'd been giving interviews for 72 hours straight. Ambassador, I've finished my paper. I'm calling it the Death World Paradox, Why Humanity Considers the Extraordinary Ordinary. She projected the document onto the main screen. The response has been overwhelming. The paper was detailed. It compared human baseline capabilities to every known species in the galaxy. The charts were shocking. Where most species clustered in the middle ranges for strength, endurance, and adaptability, humans were outliers in nearly every category. This chart went viral, Dr. Soman said, highlighting one particular image. Human basic training versus alien special forces selection. The requirements are nearly identical. Ambassador Krell studied the chart. This will cause panic. It already has, Professor Velcris said. But it's also caused something else. Curiosity, respect. Some species are starting to understand why humans have been such effective peacekeepers. Taemin's datapad buzzed. Another interview request. He'd received hundreds. Everyone wanted to talk to the human who'd accidentally exposed the truth. I have good news and bad news, Krell announced. The Galactic Council has called an emergency summit in 5 days. All member species will attend. They want humanity to explain itself. That's the good news? Hyejin asked. The good news is they're asking for an explanation instead of declaring humans a threat. The bad news is several militant species are calling for restrictions on human expansion and military activities. Dr. Soman pulled up another set of data. I've been analyzing historical records. Want to know something interesting? In the 400 years since humans joined galactic society, violent conflicts have decreased by 47%. Genocides have dropped to nearly zero. Piracy is at an all-time low. What's your point? Krell asked. Humans have been the galaxy's protectors. Every time a weaker species was threatened, humans intervened. Every time there was a disaster, humans were first to respond. You've been benefiting from humanity's death world nature without realizing it. Professor Velcris added, the legendary warriors were not conquerors. They were defenders. Every battle we studied was humans protecting someone else. Taemin's datapad buzzed again. This time it was from his cousin Junho. The message read, "Check Galactic social media. Our Just Human Things is trending." He pulled it up on the main screen. Humans across the galaxy were posting videos of themselves doing everyday activities. A construction worker casually lifting beams that required machinery for other species. A marathon runner completing distances that would kill most aliens. A parent carrying 3 children at once while shopping. Each video was tagged with Dashtier's Just Human Things. They're fighting back against the fear, Hyejin said, showing that we're not threats. We're just people. One video showed an elderly human woman opening a jar for a struggling alien neighbor. The caption read, "Grandma helps because grandma is strong. Got human things." Another showed human children at a playground swinging from bars that were marked danger for other species. Human kids play on equipment designed for adult training. A Just Human Things. Krell watched the videos with his head tilted. This is clever. Humanizing the extraordinary. Because it is human, Dr. Somin said. That's the whole point. What you see as extraordinary is our normal. We didn't hide our nature. We just didn't realize it was special. A priority message appeared on screen. High Counselor Vrexus, the leader of the Galactic Council, was requesting a direct channel to Ambassador Krell. "Accept it," Krell said nervously. The hologram of Vrexus appeared. The ancient being was composed of crystalline structures that reflected light in prismatic patterns. His species was one of the oldest in the galaxy. "Ambassador Krell, I have reviewed the human data. I have watched the family reunion footage. I have read Professor Velcris's paper." Vrexus's voice sounded like wind chimes. "I have a question for the humans present." Taemin stood up, his heart pounding. "I'm here, Counselor." "You are Taemin, the one who revealed the truth?" "Yes, sir. I didn't mean to cause a crisis. I just recognized my uncle in some old footage." "Tell me, Taemin, if humans are so powerful, why have you not conquered the galaxy?" "You certainly have the capability," Taemin thought carefully. "Because that's not who we are. Earth taught us strength, yes. But it also taught us that survival requires cooperation. Predators that only destroy eventually run out of prey. Humans learn to work together to protect the weak, to build communities. We're strong so we can help others, not hurt them." Hyejin added, "My father always said that true strength is knowing when not to fight. Humans learned that lesson the hard way through millions of years of evolution." Vrexus was quiet for a moment. "I have lived for 4,000 years. I have seen species rise and fall. I have watched empires built on strength crumble. But I have never seen a species as powerful as humans choose peace as consistently as you have." Professor Velcris spoke up. "Counselor, my research shows that human intervention has saved an estimated 40 billion lives across the galaxy in the past 4 centuries. They rush into danger to protect others. They share their resources. They teach their skills freely." "I am aware," Vrexus said. "This is why I am not afraid. This is why I will advocate for humanity at the summit. But others will not be so easily convinced. You need more than data and good intentions." "What do we need?" Krell asked. "You need a human to speak for humanity. Someone who embodies both the strength and the compassion. Someone who the galaxy can see as representative of your species." Everyone looked at Taemin. He shook his head frantically. No way. I'm just a student. I'm not a representative." "Actually," Dr. Somin said thoughtfully, "you're perfect. You're young, honest, and you didn't try to hide human nature. You were surprised that we found you extraordinary. That authenticity matters. But I don't know how to give speeches or do politics." Hyejin grabbed his shoulder. "You don't need to. You just need to be yourself. That's what got us into this situation. It's what will get us out." Ambassador Krell nodded slowly. "The counselor is right. The galaxy doesn't need a politician. They need to see a real human. Flawed, honest, and kind." Taemin felt sick. "Can I at least have help? I can't do this alone." "You will have support," Vrexus said. "Bring your uncle, the one who grills burgers. Bring the professor who studied humans unknowingly. Bring anyone who shows the truth of humanity. You have 5 days to prepare." The hologram vanished. Taemin sat down heavily. "I broke xenohistory and now I have to fix galactic politics." "Look at it this way," Professor Velcris said with a slight click of her mandibles that might have been a smile. "You'll definitely pass my class." Over the next 5 days, preparation was chaotic. Uncle Bob agreed to come, much to everyone's surprise. "If my nephew needs help, I'm there." Plus, I've never been to the Galactic Council headquarters. Sounds interesting. Grandfather Deho also volunteered. I'm old. I've got nothing to lose. And maybe it's time someone reminded the galaxy what humans really stand for. Dr. Soman compiled presentations. Professor Velcris prepared her research. Hejian helped Taman practice his speech. Meanwhile, social media exploded with debates. Some species posted videos expressing fear of humans. Others posted videos of positive experiences with human neighbors, colleagues, and friends. An alien teacher posted, "I teach at a mixed-species school. My human colleague stopped a school fire by running into the burning building to rescue children. She had burns for weeks but never complained. She said any human would have done the same." A merchant posted, "Human traders are the only ones who travel through dangerous space lanes to bring supplies to remote colonies. They say someone has to do it." A military officer posted, "I served with humans for 10 years. They're the first ones into danger and the last ones to retreat. But they never start fights. They end them." The hashtag #HumansAreHeroes started trending alongside human threat. The galaxy was divided. On the transport to the Galactic Council headquarters, Taman looked at his small group. Uncle Bob wore a suit but had refused to take off his galaxy's best uncle hat. Deho sat quietly, reading something on his datapad. Professor Velcris was reviewing notes. Hejian was trying to calm her own nerves. What if this doesn't work?